The 2021 basketball season is here, and teams around the league took the offseason to retool and revamp and are ready to hit the court. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, has rolled out another one of their can't-miss offers. Trying DraftKings Sportsbook is so easy, so why are you waiting? Get in on all the action right now. To celebrate the return of basketball, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new players 100-1 odds on any featured matchup this week. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any featured matchup, and if your team wins, you get a crisp $100 bill. Or maybe credit of $100. While all are excited for the return of basketball, let's not forget the football playoffs are right around the corner. So head to the app right now and check out all of the DraftKings daily odds boosts. DraftKings is safe and secure and reliable, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code FIELD68. That's FIELD68 when you sign up to get the 100-1 odds of any featured matchup this week. That's code FIELD68 for new players to get a shot at $100 on any featured matchup this week for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania residents only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. DraftKings. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Inside the Mind of Miles. We know this is the best podcast in the history of mankind, and it only gets better because today we have Shaka Smart, University of Texas. Shaka, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Hey, we're not going to belabor the hair, but I do have to ask one question. How much longer does it take you to get ready in the morning because of the hair as opposed to the shave?
Not much of a difference. I don't really put much time and effort into it.
So you're saying that the biggest story in college basketball, being your hair, doesn't get any TLC in the morning.
Yeah, you know what? I had no idea this would be any type of story. And, a lot of my friends like to bust my chops about it because, they've known me for a long time. And I haven't really had long hair since I was in college. So, but no, I don't really put much time into it.
Let's talk about college. You grew up in the Madison area, Oregon High School, Madison, Wisconsin, upper Midwest. And what was it like for you in high school? I've read different things, as I do my biographical challenges and check out guys. What was it like growing up in Oregon and then going to, of course, Mark Johnson was a guy that I recruited there a long time ago and ended up walking on at Indiana. What was it like growing up in Oregon and in the middle of Madison, Wisconsin?
It was great. I was raised by a single mom and had 3 brothers growing up and, really enjoyed my experience on different sports teams. Like a lot of kids, I was pretty sports crazy. And I think, that was probably the biggest, joy for me of just being a part of teams and getting a chance to work with great coaches. My high school coach is a guy by the name of Kevin Baver. And he was a coach for a long, long time at Oregon High School where I went to school. He now coaches at Middleton, which I'm sure is a school you're familiar with,
Yep.
Coach, just outside of Madison. And he just really put his arm around me and looked out for me. I remember he would open up the gym for me on Friday and Saturday nights. I would go in there. I had this thing about being in the gym, when everybody else was kind of up to no good on the weekends. And just fell in love with the game of basketball and being around it. He introduced me to kind of the coaching side and the analytical side of the game. He just had a great way about him. I remember we had a series of dribble moves like everyone else that we would work on, but he kind of brought to life because he named each dribble move after a professional basketball player. So instead of just doing the inside out, it was the Magic Johnson inside out.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
he just had a really good way about him. And then he also, just kind of looked out for me as a person. So that was really, really fortunate for me just to be around not just him, but a lot of coaches that cared about me as a young man.
Was your best move the Magic Johnson or the Tim Hardaway, or what was your best move then?
I don't know. I mean, probably so. I like the inside out. When I played, there was another guy in the backcourt with me named Will Smith. And
oh, nice. Did he go on to be a rapper or anything like that?
No, same
Okay.
name, but this guy had just personality in spades, and he could jump out of the gym, very athletic. He was only about 5'9", and so the two of us together, in the backcourt, I think for all players, there's things that you wish you could go back and experience again. But just playing with him and being a part of those teams is a lot of fun.
So you went on to Kenyon College, and that's in Ohio, correct?
Yes.
What led you there?
The coach. I mean, you know how recruiting is. I mean, you kind of build relationships with guys. And, for me, I was looking at a bunch of different schools, different areas of the country. I knew I kind of wanted to go somewhere a little bit further away. My mom had encouraged me to do that. And so I looked at some different schools, but really it was the coach, a guy by the name of Bill Brown, that, again, he just kind of put his arm around me during the recruiting process. Got to know my mom really well. And, I felt like it really made sense to go play for him. But then he left after my freshman year. It was one of the toughest days of my life when I got that news. Kind of was introduced to that side of college basketball, the fact that sometimes the coach does change. The silver lining, though, was when he left, he told me, he said, hey, when you get done with playing, if you want, you can come work for me as a GA. And that's exactly what I did.
Where did he go?
He went to a school called California University of Pennsylvania.
Yep, that's right. Cal PA.
We used to call recruits and we'd say, hey, this is Coach from Cal U. And we really wouldn't say the Pennsylvania part. So, we wanted them envisioning beaches and there's actually another school in our league called Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So, we kind of left out the PA part, but that Division II league in Pennsylvania, it still does, but especially at that time, just had some phenomenal players. A lot of guys that had bounced around, been in Division I, hadn't worked out for whatever reason. We had a kid on our team named Rashawn Roberts. He's 6'9", could do anything. He could shoot. He could really pass. He could handle the ball. He was strong. Could really rebound. And our guys don't like to hear this, but I've told our players at every stop I've been at, there's not a team I've coached as an assistant coach or as a head coach that kid would not start on. I mean, he was that good in Division II. So that was a pretty cool introduction to coaching, just a chance to be around those guys.
I've showed my Southwest Minnesota State team, and I say, guys, guess the level this is, and they're like, Missouri Valley, A10. I'm like, no, we're a Division II team. And these guys would whip our ass. And Coach Brown left after a strong recruiting process, right? And after that freshman year, do you think that had, you had every opportunity at VCU, honestly, it's the gospel according to Shaka, when it comes to basketball, right? And every high major job's chasing Shaka Smart. Do you think that had an effect on you staying at VCU for that large number of years?
Yeah, it did. It did. It still has an effect on me to this day. I still, fortunately, I get a chance still to talk to Coach Brown and to Coach Bravery, my high school coach. Again, I think because I was raised by a single mom, I maybe look at coaches a little bit differently than most players today do. I mean, to me, coaches were 10 feet tall. I mean, whatever they said, I was going to try to do it to the best of my ability. And I was one of those guys. I was always looking out of the corner of my eye to see if the coach was watching and the coach was, noticing what I was doing. So, I learned when I became a head coach that not every player looks at the coach that way. But certainly, yeah, when I was at VCU, I mean, it was just such an unbelievable situation. Uh, Great place to coach. The coaching staff, the guys that I got a chance to work with every day, they were as important, in terms of just the continuity and wanting to stay there as anything. And then, of course, the players, just a chance to have the relationships with those guys. But, one of the things I learned is, everything does change over time, and there's a season for everything. And, I heard Matt Painter say way, way back when I was first getting into coaching, he was speaking at a clinic and he said, we are all replacements. We replace someone and someone will replace us. And I thought that was a really matter of fact way to put it.
Painter can put it that way, can he? Yeah, and it makes sense. Matt's, I think, a great statesman, not only for college basketball, but certainly the Big Ten. You worked for Billy Donovan at Florida. You worked for Oliver Purnell. Tell me about those. Did you work with Larry Shiat then?
I did. Actually, it's funny you asked because I don't have much to do today because it's this holiday break. And I was looking back at some practice plans from 2008, 2009 at the University of Florida, literally this morning. And I texted Larry Shiat.
Yep.
He did most of the practice plans. He, like all the stuff I have in this binder, 90% of it is from him. And then 10% of it is just me furiously scribbling down notes of what Billy said, because, the things that came out of his mouth, to that team were just, for me as a young assistant coach, just really, really enlightening. But I actually texted Shy a copy of, it was like the early defensive fundamental principles that we were putting in. And he was definitely the defensive guy on that staff. So I sent that to Shy and he got a kick out of it.
He and I scrimmaged each other, and then we sat down and watched tape and just talked about stuff. And we also met kind of midway between when he was the head coach of Wyoming and I was at Nebraska. Of course, we were in the same league for a couple of years together, Wyoming and Colorado State. But he brought defensive notes this thick, to an opponent. And I thought that was so cool. I brought him like one sheet of nothing, and on offense, and he really is a defensive mind, and that had to be a pivotal year for you because that kind of sprungboarded you into head coaching.
I was just so lucky. When I was getting into coaching as a young guy, I actually went down and worked camp at the University of Florida, and so this was in the year 2000. And they had just come off playing in the national championship game against Michigan State. You remember those teams with
Mike Miller
on one side, Mateen Cleaves on the other side, Morris Peterson, Charlie Bell, those guys. And so I went to go work the camp. I'm 23 years old, knew nothing about Division I basketball. I played Division III and I was working Division II. And, just a chance to be around the program there and watch the players. The best memory was watching the players play pickup after camp and the way that they competed and just the discipline that they had. And I noticed this was awesome. I mean, this kind of was mind blowing for me. They were able to strike this balance between, they were like right on the edge of fighting, but not quite, that level of competitiveness. Yeah. And I was like, man, like this is where it's at right here. So when I got the opportunity several years later to go actually work in that program at the University of Florida for Billy, my mentality was, man, I'm going to be down here for like 6-8 years at least. And, really take everything in and, get a chance to be a part of helping Billy kind of build this program back after he had won the 2 national championships. But then after my first year, the athletic director from VCU called, and it was a really challenging decision because I didn't know if I was ready to be a head coach at that time. I was 31 years old. I asked Billy for his advice. I asked him, tell me what I should do. And he's like, I'm not telling you what to do. That's up to you. I'm not getting in the middle of that. Yeah. He said, I'll support you either way, but that's up to you. So I actually kind of went through that process, and part of me was almost hoping that they would pick someone else, because like I said, I just got there. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew it was a great opportunity. Anthony Grant had done an unbelievable job there, and They're just coming off an NCAA tournament appearance. So when I got offered that job, I'll never forget, I called Billy and I said, Coach, if you want me to stay, I just got here. I'll stay. He said, Shock, go ahead and take the job. He said, I'll get someone better than you. So it was, he just had a way about him of putting things like that. So,
well, you're replaceable, Shaka. I mean, let's go. Let's face it, right? I mean, we're all replacements. How about that? You know, I had Richard Pitino, who was a former Billy assistant on. He got a job at a young age.
He was my replacement.
There you go. I don't know. You know, Richard, I'm not saying Richard's better than you. I'm just going to say right now, I don't think so. So Richard's a good friend. That's why I can say that. But, you know, I was 28. Richard was 30 when he got Minnesota. I think you were 31 when you got BCU. And I remember saying to my athletic director, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And this is just a unique story. As a small college athletic director, Jim Kretschmann, Dr. Kretschmann said, Tim, are you ever really ready to get married? Are you ready to, you know, whatever? You're never really ready. He says, here's what you do. He says, you know who the right guys are. You've recruited well. So recruit the right guys, coach them the right way, and leave the locker room cleaner than it was when you got there. And he goes, good things will happen. And even if they don't, even at least the custodian will be happy with you. And there's something about pleasing a custodian. And that was the advice he gave me to leave to be a head coach. And so I still furiously clean up the locker room, you know, when I'm not, like, we got to get that, we got to, you know, all this stuff because of Dr. Kretschmann, because you're not ready. But you won 25 every year at VCU. Like, it was just stamp it. Okay. So coach, when you're a head coach and you're now, you know, you're putting yourself out here. Do you see yourself more as an offensive coach or a defensive coach?
Well, I think there's probably more of us out there like this. But I wish I could say I was an offensive coach like Billy Donovan, but I'm a defensive coach.
But, and I'm glad you said that, because listen, every year you've been a head coach, you've had a defense that's been in the top 100. And I think you've got accounted, let me see right here. Of your 12 years, 10 have been top 40 defenses in the country. How about that? So 10 of your 12 years, you've been in the top 40, and you're a defensive coach, my friend.
That's good defensive players too.
Well, so that's the point, you know. So the great part is everybody wants to play offense, and we have to recruit these guys like they're going to play offense. Jim Molinari says, you know, we are who we substitute for. I'll never forget that one. So if there's an error, like a turnover, big deal. A defensive error, get him out of there. Get him out of there. What do you see yourself in game subbing for? How do you view yourself, and when you're putting your practices together and so forth?
Well, I mean, I think I'd like to believe that, you know, for me, it starts with neither defense nor offense. It starts with kind of the cultural part of it, you know, who we are, how we act, interact, and respond. That's kind of the definition of culture that we use with our team, just how we act, interact, and respond. And to me, you know, if you get that part right, then both of those ends of the floor are going to go better than if you don't get that part right. It's interesting. This is my 12th year, and we've always emphasized deflections because that's what we did at Clemson. That's what we did at Akron. I also worked for Keith Dambrot, who I know
who's at Duquesne now, is
one of the absolute best coaches in the country, and an absolute just awesome guy to be around. Probably of all the guys I've worked with, probably my best like friend in coaching in terms of just a relationship that we built working together. So anyway, deflections was always like this big thing. It really just smacked me across the face this year in my 12th year. I said, let me look at the correlation between deflections and then how our team is playing on offense. And, you know, one might think, well, what does that have to do with anything? But it's amazing. And I definitely encourage coaches, if you chart deflections, to go look at this. If you look at when your
block shot a deflection?
Yes, a block shot, a steal. Anytime you get your hands on a basketball.
Hip deflect. Gotcha.
On defense. But if you go and you look at when your team goes through a scoring drought, let's say the other team goes on a 12-2 run, or on the flip side, anytime you go on a run, look at the deflection numbers over that span of time. And what you'll find is, at least it's the case for our teams, is when our deflections are really high, it's a great indicator of our energy on both ends of the floor.
Yep.
And when our deflections are really low, it almost always correlates with a run from the other team, not just them scoring, but us not scoring.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be one area to me that's really important.
That's a great point. I used to tell my assistants, recruit guys that come up with the ball. The game's called basketball. It's a hell of an idea to come up with it. You know what I mean? So, we don't want to throw it away and have turnovers. We want to be able to capture it by stealing it and rebounding it, tip, deflecting, blocking a shot. To me, and obviously the NBA is huge on that property of what do you call it? That transitive property of block shots and rebounds is a huge telltale sign. And I think people discount length and athleticism sometimes for that mind of getting to the ball, like just that cleverness of anticipation, and when that's ramped up, and that's that group you have on the floor, I'd be curious how your groups look too. Your groups of 5, you know what I mean? Like, is there a group that tips it better and deflects it better than another group? And because I think you and I have talked some different analytics at times, just sitting there recruiting wise. I know how we count possessions, or how we count points per possession, or whatever it might be. And for all you purist basketball guys, the guys with the nerdy glasses and the guys that love analytics and love diving into those things, I think it's just that curiosity for how can I make my team better in a different way? Is there an advantage to whatever? And I just think that when you've got a group of guys out there that are, like I say, clever or a little bit intuitive on how to get to the ball, you're better off. And that makes complete sense to what you said, but I've never anticipated that either, that defensive number to offense, but it makes sense.
It does make sense. And again, this is my bias for sure, but there's a cultural element in it as well. And so when you have 5 guys on the floor that truly are losing themselves in the fight together, and I know that sounds like a cliche and it's really pie in the sky, and coaches love that kind of stuff, but when you have that, it's amazing how much quicker you are to the ball, how many more loose balls you come up with, and how much more on defense you're able to get your hands on the basketball.
So we're going to wreak havoc, right? We're going to press and we're going to go crazy, right? And now we're a half-court defensive team trying to wreak havoc. How is that adjustment from mid-major basketball to high-major basketball, where you might have a 6'7", like I tell people, in the Big Ten, we couldn't press. I mean, you got a 6'7" 2 guard, and you went against Big Ten schools in the NCAA tournament. Michigan, I recall one year, but it's hard to press those guys. Because, I mean, not only do they have the stretch 4, but the guard is 6'7". Like, he just looks over the top of you. Tell me about that adjustment defensively and how you've gone to recreate that same havoc defense more in a half-court style.
Yeah, that's a great question. I get those kind of things all the time because, people really get mad at me for not, playing the exact same way we did at VCU, but it's just completely different circumstances. Like you said, the league you're in, I think the rules have changed significantly from about 10 years ago.
That's a good point.
I think that, because of the, that cylinder rule that the refs call, because of that, you got to be a little more careful with trapping. You can't necessarily trap 40 minutes of the game, because you're going to get 4 or 5 of those cylinder calls. And if those occur after the other team's already in the bonus, that's free points for them. So,
and it's adding up to those free points, even if it's not in the bonus. Fouling is bad.
Exactly. So I think that it's certainly a fine line. One thing we've emphasized to our team this year is to play with more violence, but you're trying to do so without fouling. And so I think it's one of those things you mentioned, just kind of the smarts of the players. I think this is a level of it's one form of intelligence from basketball players. And, guys that really have the ability to play with extreme aggressiveness and physicality without fouling and almost knowing, okay, they're going to call this, but they're not going to call that.
Yeah.
So I can go do that, but I not do this. That's to me, that's a form of genius. And you think of some of the best players out there at the highest level and some of the best players out there in college, they're really able to do that. And as a coach, you almost get mad playing against them because you're like, this guy's fouling, but they just have a way about them of being physical and violent without it being called. So that's been certainly a transformation. I think it starts again with the recruiting process of just trying to figure out real quickly how someone's going to be in that area. And then again, this is my bias, but when the guys are able to just lose themselves, like lose that concern with, okay, how's it going for me? Or what does this affect? How does this affect me in the future? And all those sorts of things in the fight of what we're doing together. That's the magic of it. And that's where you have, 5 guys kind of flying together and working together as one. And even if one guy gets out of position, another guy covers for him. That's, I think, what most of the best defensive teams have in common.
Yeah, I love that when you talk about that, because you can't play cool and get away with it. There's no cool to it. And as you look at this, a great defensive team, first of all, when your defense is bad, your ball pressure is bad. Your ability and that cleverness about getting into, oh, by the way, guess who's making an appearance? Sammy. Look out. Now that's a truck right there. She is. So
you're on defense.
Yeah, she would be an NAI power forward. Just kind of landlocked a little bit. Maybe your backup center, come in, set some good tough screens, get a few rebounds, box out. But so when your defense is bad, your ball pressure is bad. And that is true. The hands-off approach out on top. And like you said, trapping, and I hope people understand is when you trap somebody, you really are trapping, and you're trapping their space. You're walking into them as they picked up the ball, and your chest is strong, and any pivot nowadays screws you over, and because it's a cylinder rule. And that's only in effect because guys were pivoting and hitting guys, on a pivot, and then flopping down, and you're getting an F2 or whatever it was for those couple of years. And now you're getting, 2 foul shots in the ball and all this other stuff. So when you look at your defensive system, is Courtney Rainey, is he your catalyst defensively? Who sets the tone for the Texas Longhorns?
That's a good question. We try to take a team approach. I mean, we start 3 guards: Courtney Ramey, Matt Coleman, and Andrew Jones. And we're lucky, for a few years, Coach, we were really young, particularly at the guard spot. And,
tough league to be young in.
And now we're older. So, Courtney's a junior, Andrew's a junior, and Matt Coleman's a senior. Matt's probably the quickest of the 3. So he usually draws the toughest defensive assignment from the standpoint of just dealing with someone that's really quick and can shoot. Obviously, those are the hardest guys to guard. But in our league and a lot of the teams we play, all 3, maybe even 4 of the perimeter players are really, really good. So it's not like, the other guys have the night off. And, it's interesting. We played Villanova a couple of weeks ago, and, we told our guys, hey, they're going to pick on whoever they think is weakest. And that they don't have really a weak link on the perimeter or even inside. So they're going to choose whoever they want to go at, and they're going to do that. And I think that's one of the things that makes them really good.
I use the movie Rounders all the time for that one. If you can't find the sucker at the table in the first 30 seconds, you are the sucker. And, I tell our guys the same way, like, you'll know. Now you'll know. And if you don't know, it's probably you. So what is your team's greatest challenge this year outside of COVID? I don't want to hear about COVID. All right. So, what hurdle do the Longhorns have to get over to win the Big 12 championship?
That's a great question. Well, I already talked a lot about culture, so I won't go there, but that's, I think, for every team, the key. But I'd say basketball wise, just really, really building consistent pace on the offensive end. When we have pace, I think we're a pretty good offensive team. But one of the things that happens,
I would tell you to work on your tips and deflections to increase that pace.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, certainly when we're playing in transition, is, for us when we're at our best. But in the half court, it's interesting. Love to hear your thoughts about this. Guys want to score, and guys want to make plays. But, getting them to have an understanding of, hey, now is the time for us to move the ball. And, okay, maybe when you get it back, now that's your time to go attack and make plays. And it's a fine line because you want at least a couple guys on the floor that have a scorer's mentality, and a mentality that they're going to be aggressive and look to go attack, because you certainly don't want guys passing the ball around for 30 seconds and not even getting a shot up.
Yeah, well, so we used to chart passes. So outside of transition, count your half court possessions, and we'd say, okay, look at how we are scoring when there's 3 or 4 passes, okay, and look how poor we are under 3, 1 or 2, bad offense, 3 or 4, great. But guess what happens at 6 and 7? Bad offense. All right. So the question is, all right, we can't just stand there and pass it 4 times and now decide to go, what are we doing for each other to create that half step advantage? What actions do we have in our thing? Or if we're just running motion, where are we getting that perfect rhythm of screening actions or cuts, as we get to 3, 4, and 5 passes, because that's your sweet spot, right? And that's the hard part, and they get, like, I used to wear them out with data, I chart everything, and that wears them out too. You got to really be careful. How much data do you use with your guys, and do you find that same problem that I had?
Yeah, it's a great point. There's definitely a point of saturation for the players. I think, and you might have been different with this, I think there's even a point of saturation for you as a head coach. It's like there can be, 50 pages of data based on different things. And sometimes, between the data, the basketball data from the games, and then now we have all this physical data from the catapult and the load and all that, and, max efforts. And it's like, just tell me, okay, what is most important out of all this stuff?
Yeah.
And how can we use this with our guys? So I think with the players, stuff that is specific to their game and helpful to maybe giving them some tips of how they can play better and be more effective, that's what they're most interested in. I think the shot charts are typically interesting for guys, for them to look at their own shot charts and kind of have a sense for, okay, why am I shooting better in this area than this other area? And then it all works together, with film and, with practice and those sorts of things. I really like trying to simplify for the guys different types of shots. So, whether it's catch, shoot threes,
dribble twos,
taking shots off the dribble. But, it's interesting. I was watching, I won't say the name, but this a Hall of Fame level coach and a very, very good program last night. And they were shooting a bunch of like pull-up mid-range shots. And clearly they were good with that. And they were making a decent amount of them. So as good players remind you, whenever you talk to a really, really good player, particularly guys at the professional level or that have retired already, they'll tell you, like, hey, those analytics guys, like, they didn't put the ball in the basket very much. So, let's take what they say with a grain of salt. And, for a guy that's put the ball in the basket a lot, like some of these guys that are, former players, like a Jalen Rose is pretty outspoken about it on ESPN. You got to stop and listen to those guys because they're the ones who actually did it.
So some of my favorite times with players would be sitting down with 1 or 2 players and just watching their minutes, or even practice, and just like, hey, what do you see? What, how do you feel about this? Who do you trust? Like, is this a lineup you like? Whatever. And we started getting into, okay, what is a good two, really? We got into what's a good two. And the one I liked is I had a little point guard, and he's like, I just like a little rhythm anytime I come into the game. So if I've been subbed out or it's halftime or whatever, I really like a pull-up jumper. Like, it just kind of gets me where I need to be. Well, that's four of them then. I mean, he's going to come out a couple times, and we got a couple breaks, you know what I mean? And so I mean, how many do you? So I'm like, listen, you can do whatever you want, all right? And but you just got to know you can't hunt that shot too much, but you learn just that listening to him, And then I had another kid that was a premier player, now playing professionally. I'm like, why are you taking that shot? He goes, I just kind of felt like I needed to score. All right, that's bad, dude. Like, I mean, I know where you're coming from on that,
Good honesty.
Yeah, I love it, But you do, like you say, how you learn from players, and of what to, what really is important to them. And I just think I always love that time with film, breaking your space bar, like people have to understand that, the other thing you brought up was when you talk to your guys, how do we all get on the same page? We can get overwhelmed with data. So how about this one, Shaka? You talked about a catalyst, folks. Catalyst is a little mechanism that they wear, and we know the amount of energy that they are outputting. How far they've run for the day is an easy one. We put in 7 miles or 3 miles or whatever it is. And you also get kind of a maximum exertion type of thing. And so, this load, we're overloading them, right? So we got to back off. Well, pretty soon, a coach gets that information. He gets the shot chart of the day. Then, just everything. And you're going like, God. So we did spit tests one year. All this diatribe leads to this, right? So we did the saliva test, and guys would spit in a thing, and we did it over the course of a season. And it measured, I got to remember what it measured. It measured cortisol, which is stress. Okay. Okay. But it also measured whatever testosterone is, So testosterone really measures, and this is my words. Okay. This is unscientific, but really, if you're confident or your energy is in the right place, and cortisol means you're stressed and a little bit worried. Okay. So what we found out after all year was that these three guys over here, when their cortisol was up, they played better, like they were almost worried we're going to lose this game. But these two guys over here, they only played good if their testosterone was up. So now I got to get this group worried and this group over here confident. I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to, like, what do I split the locker room? And I'm like, screw it. I don't want any more information. I don't want to hear any of this crap about whatever. Because, as you go to these high major jobs like Texas and Nebraska, they have great resources, and you use it 1,000 times. You get great information on, for instance, we used to measure a guy's spleen. So if he got mono, we knew, the biggest problem with coming back after mono is not your energy level or your sore throat or whatever. Is your spleen still inflamed? Is it whatever? So when it's normal, you can go back. So we'd measure their spleen, and wow, that's genius. But I don't need to know any more cortisol, testosterone. It goes crazy, man.
Yeah. No, it's, I think the old school coaches are probably laughing at us for
they are. Well, what's funny is how much I go back to that old school stuff, though. Like the Jalen's talking about, and what you're saying is that when I find out, like, if my team's struggling, Mike Dunlap one time, who's I think a bit of an old school coach who's now in the NBA, was just recently the head coach, very thoughtful man, highly successful Division II coach, good Division I coach, head NBA coach. He told me one time we were struggling. He's like, cut your problems in half. We don't do this. We don't do this. Our kids' body language is bad, and we can't make a shot. And okay, cut your problems in half. And every time that we cut them in half, I kind of went back to those old school, fundamental, and that's the way I tried to end games with guys too. Like, we're at end game or end half. I'm like, listen, if we just burrow ourselves in the fundamentals of the game and stay in the moment, we're going to be great. But do you find yourself doing similar things like that?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us in coaching, the way that our minds work, we want to have everything figured out. We want to have a list of everything we're going to do in every single situation that might occur in the game or over the course of a year. But in a lot of ways, sometimes it can work against us because it gets us to this complexity when in a lot of situations we just need to be more simple. Like you said, we need to pick out the weak defender and go at him instead of trying to do this intricate, 10-step play. No, like let's just go at that guy right there.
Yep.
So I think that's where the coaching staff is so important, in terms of, having a level of balance on the staff where there's someone that, can just remind you as a head coach, hey, remember, this is what we said we wanted to do and where we said we wanted to really be good. So let's not get too far away from that.
Well, I'm sure that we're sitting here, folks, right before Christmas. Shaka's got another week off before we play a game. So Santa's going to stop by the house, I'm sure, right? In the Smart household. And we're going to,
Santa will be stopping by for my daughter. I don't know about the rest of us, but
well, hopefully he stops by your house in March and April.
yeah, for sure.
And well, I want you to have a great Christmas and a safe Christmas, of course. And you and the most famous head of hair are going to have a great Big 12 season. We can't wait to watch the Longhorns. And this has been a journey for you guys. You do have a group of guys that have stuck together, been through a lot, cancer, youth, not having the success that hoped. And now you've got, you had a tremendous Greg Brown, a freshman that's candidate to be, freshman of the year in my book, in the Big 12. And you look at this team you put together, and we're pulling for you all the way. And it should be about time to knock Kansas off their throne, I think, right?
They got a great team again, and our league is, it's always really, really good.
How many teams are going? All of them? No, all of them are going, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's unique about our league, everyone's league is hard. I mean, I don't know if you'll find a coach that says our league's easy. So everyone's league is hard, but the thing that's unique is you do play everyone twice. You play everyone home, you play everyone on the road, so there's no dodging anything or anyone. But yeah, it's a fun league to be part of. I mean, there's so many great coaches in our league, and I appreciate your kind words. Hopefully, as a group, we can just continue to get better because, again, that's one of the areas where we can remember to be more simple. If we can improve, we're going to be able to play best at the end.
Well, I'm sure you will. You've been to the Final Four before. I'm sure you look forward to going back. And thank you for being on really the finest podcast in the history of mankind. I learned through the political season I could say whatever I want, and if I pretend it's true, it's true. So because I'm unemployed, I can do that. You can't.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity just to talk some hoops. I got a ton of respect for you as a coach, and look forward to seeing you on the sidelines again soon.
Thanks, partner. I appreciate it. And good luck to you. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a great holiday season. And we'll be looking forward to just better basketball. League basketball is always the way it should be. There's been great matchups. We know there's going to be hiccups, folks. That's okay. We'll figure it out. But have a great holiday season and good luck down the Big 12 and the postseason. You guys are going to do great. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Thanks for coming on, Shaka.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm here with Santa Eaton just after Christmas, and we had a great discussion with Shaka Smart, the head coach of the Texas Longhorns, and his fascinating hair. Coach E, what are some of your thoughts about Shaka?
I'm wearing the hat to cover up my hair because he's got more than I do.
Can't blame you. I've seen it.
No, I mean, Shaka, everybody knows him, especially from his time at VCU and now at Texas. And I mean, he's a phenomenal coach. I mean, such a smart person. I love
very intellectual.
Oh, so smart. The analytics that he talks about is just it's fascinating.
He was the guy that turned me on to, instead of plus minus for the individual, doing the points per possession per rotation. What 5 guys are on the floor, which we did for a long time, and it proved to be enlightening that way. I liked how he talked about how deflections, tips really create offense for him, or they play better offense. And it just goes to the whole energy level and attentiveness of your team and connectivity, I think. He's got a really good team. Santa. You know what? There are other good teams out there, and I've got some quizzes for you today. Okay, are you ready?
Boy. Okay.
Are you ready? I'm gonna put you to the test.
Okay.
So
Let's see what
I'm gonna. There's because of the lack of non-conference bye games. Let's just call it what it is. There's been a lot better, first of all, early conference matchups or just head-to-head good matchups. So there's less undefeated teams this year. All right.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask you, and you can't look, you can't cheat. Don't be getting on your phone or your computer here on me. Who is the only undefeated team in the ACC?
the ACC
There's one of 15 teams.
out of 15. I'm gonna guess Florida State.
Wake Forest is 2-0, Coach.
Wake Forest. Wow. 2-0.
Yep.
That's a lot of games.
Yep. So there's 3 in the SEC. Okay, the Southeastern Conference. There's 3, but listen, I'm going to give you 2 of them.
Okay.
Okay. So Tennessee is 6-0. Arkansas, David Patrick, Eric Musselman, Clay Moser, formerly Inside the Mind of Miles participants, undefeated at Arkansas. The Hogs are really looking sharp.
Mhm.
I just want to give you a hint. Kentucky is not undefeated. Kentucky,
Yeah.
not undefeated.
Yeah. I mean, Lexington's used to that record being 6-1. Not
Yeah. So now we have one other team that's not Kentucky that's undefeated.
Missouri.
Missouri would be the third one. Damn it, you got me. Okay, there's 2 others. Missouri.
Okay, let's see.
Former colleague of ours in the Big Ten.
Boy. Georgia.
Georgia, 7-0. Georgia.
Are they really? Wow.
Yeah, my stats are taken directly screenshotted from the Ken Pomeroy. So any problems? One team undefeated in the Big East. Who is it?
Big East. I know it's not Villanova.
Can't lose if you don't play.
I know.
Can't
right?
lose if you don't play. DePaul Blue Demons, 1-0. They played. They played a game. In the Pac-12, right? There is one team that's undefeated. One team that's undefeated.
Arizona? No. Okay. I know it's not Arizona State.
Kyle Smith, ring a bell? Kyle Smith.
Washington State.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Wow.
sir. Washington State. And in the Mountain West Conference, there is one team that's undefeated.
One team in the Mountain West.
You're not getting it.
It's got to be somebody just way outside. I mean, is it Fresno?
Fresno it is. 2-0 is Fresno. Yep. 2-0 is Fresno.
San
All
Diego
right.
State was until they got BYU, and that was a great game.
How about, yeah, no kidding. How about the Big Ten Conference, man? I mean, first of all, props to Chris Collins, Brian James, Coach Dildy, and the whole staff. 3-0, beating Sparty, winning at Indiana, and then Ohio State. 3 highly. Remember that year we beat at Indiana, at Maryland, and then we came home and beat Iowa in double overtime to start 3-0. Then the injuries kicked in on us a little bit. That's my excuse, I guess. I'm sticking with it. But that's the one thing with those teams that are upstarts, got to stay healthy. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Northwestern because they're on the top of the league. But there's one overall undefeated team in the league.
One team in.
You should get this one.
I should get this one. Oh boy, no pressure now. Wisconsin lost to Marquette.
5, 4.
I'm out, Coach.
Michigan.
Oh yeah,
They were
Michigan.
in town 2 days ago.
They were in town 2 days ago. Yep.
Yep. So you'll get this one. One undefeated team in the Big 12. Baylor. Come on, dude.
Baylor, because they haven't played though. They haven't played
In a while. In a while.
What, they played 2 games early. What are they, 3-0?
They're 6-0.
They're 6-0. Okay.
Yep. So there's an undefeated team in the West Coast Conference. We know that's Gonzaga. And can Gonzaga beat 5 NBA teams, 7 NBA teams, 1 NBA team? They're pretty
so
good.
Long. They're so. I mean, just I've been lucky enough to watch over this break a couple more of their games from earlier in the year, and they're just so long that they remind me a lot of. Remember when Iowa had Aaron White?
Oh.
Up at the top of that zone. You were talking with Shaka about the length, like 6'7" guards, and you try to skip it over him.
It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. No, he just takes it from you.
Yeah.
He's having a very successful career in Europe, by the way, doing very well. 2 more leagues, partner.
Okay.
Mid and mid plus. We'll start with mid. In the A10, there is 1, 2 undefeated teams. Can you name them?
St. Louis?
Wrong. St. Louis lost to Minnesota. Marcus Carr. Whew.
Dayton?
Wrong.
Oh, boy.
St. Bonaventure is 2-0.
Wow, okay.
And, Coach, if you don't play, you can't lose. Fordham is 0-0. They have not lost. I'm just saying. We got a theme here. All right. And the last one is in the American Conference. We know Houston's undefeated. Who else is undefeated in that league?
Oh, man. It's probably another team that hasn't played a whole lot.
No, not necessarily true. Not necessarily true.
I think Memphis has 1 loss.
Well, I watched them lose in person, so that is true.
SMU?
SMU. Yep. SMU is the team in the American. And he's Tim Jankovic done an excellent job there. And he's undefeated. So I would say you were right maybe 20% of the time with hints.
I consider myself an above average baseball player, so I'll take that.
Oh yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we're gonna make the Hall of Fame at 289. So Coach, I tell you, it's been a fun Christmas. Is that a Mickey Mouse hat? Is he
Mickey Santa? Yep.
I see him there with his eyes like that.
Yep.
And you must be in your in-laws' basement because I don't see the trilogy Lord of the Rings.
Yep. We're up here spending a couple days. It's actually my birthday tomorrow too, so we're spending
That's true. That's true. Happy pre-birthday on that. Yeah. You'll be getting my text hopefully at midnight, so I can get that. Yep. Get that out of the way.
You'll be up watching film.
Yeah, I will be. We're going to talk about some film afterwards, by the way. So, been a good Christmas, and you say you've got something for me.
Just something small. Santa Timmy, couple gifts, just for some teams looking for some answers and looking to see what they can make the most of this year. So, for Coach Peichel and Rutgers, what would you give them, Santa?
Oh, boy, an NCAA tournament. Just the chance to get there, because I think they've got a really, really tough squad, and you can just see how Coach Peichel has been building up to this, and you feel the hopefulness of all, so many fans, and it's kind of cool. It's a cool story because they got kicked around for some years now. While he did the slow brew, he did the crock pot, not the microwave, and he took some transfers, but boy, he's, Jacob Young, Geo Baker playing, Ron Harper Jr., who we know, excellent player, Miles Johnson. My wife's name's Johnson. My name's Miles. So we were pulling for Miles Johnson the whole time in our house. So unless we played him, but he was really, I think Peichel's got a heck of a squad. I just wanted to be able to finish the year. Yeah,
they are. Coach Underwood was on here and he talked about just how everybody just beat on him. It was like, and Richard even said it too. Just there's not an easy day in the Big Ten, and they used to be. And I was in the Big East with, the old Big East as a student manager, and that was the game that you'd always start. The get right game is what.
Get healthy a little bit.
About Coach Izzo, Michigan State.
Izzo's his team's at their best when they make threes, but they're not guarding, I don't think. So I think he needs, and this is what Coach Izzo really wants, like a week of practice, because he's just gonna run them right into the ground. He's gonna get them going, and so I want a week of practice for Coach Izzo.
He should, if he would come on here instead of meeting with Coach Beeline, maybe he would win some games. I mean,
There's another podcast that tries to compete with us in the same variety.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nah,
No,
I wouldn't do that.
Kentucky. I know we talked about them. 1-6.
Man,
Coach Cal, what do you got?
They pressed the other day. Coach Cal, man, looked like he was ready to go out for dinner. Like he had his jeans on and a shirt, like a kerchief down here instead of wearing it up here. Well, their point guard play has not been stellar. And, if you're going to compete at the highest level and schedule at the highest level, which he has done, I mean, their schedule right now is as tough as there has been. They need, better guard play in my book. And
I got two more.
Kids are starting to play harder. They've had some kids kind of, they've had some turmoil. And so I think he fleshed it out right away. He, wasn't the good news of playing that kind of schedule and trying to be highly competitive every game. So if you were at some schools, you could hide that and have 5 bye games or whatever, or a lighter load and maybe mask it by winning games. Mm-hmm. But when you get beat, you can't mask it. So, I mean, he fleshed out, okay, I'm not happy with my role. Don't know if I want to be here. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, whatever, it is with whoever, but that's been already fleshed out, I think. And I thought they looked much better against Louisville the other day.
Good.
Now, neither team shot very well early or anything like that. And Louisville's young. Talk about young. Matt Painter at Purdue looks like he's preparing for a 2023 Elite Eight run again. Those young kids, you can just see them building up. But he needs just better guard play, especially point guard play in my book. So
you talk about young teams. That Shaka made the comment, and Coach Mo, who was with us for 5 years, would always say it. You want to get old and stay old.
Stay old. Yeah, Mike Bray says that all the time too. And the thing by getting old is you want, like Wisconsin, those guys are all been in the only guy is Micah Potter. That's an impact transfer. And boy, has he, you know what? I'm going to check their record since Micah Potter's been eligible and see what their record is since since that missing piece has been put in there. Surrounding with all those guys, Trice has been there. Trice took a post-grad year, I think. And then all those other guys, Brad didn't, Davison didn't redshirt, but a lot of those, the Reavers did, and some of these other guys did. And wow, what a deal for them. They got really good players not even playing right now. Ben Carlson is one of those kids, top 70 kid in the country. And so Wisconsin's got really good players, and you could just see in their mentality how well that pays off. So just taking a bunch of new guys as transfers or whatever that are upperclassmen can help. But boy, it really helps, like Shaka says, to retain your talent and keep those guys in your, in your program, and then building off that. And that patience really has paid off for a lot of programs that way.
Yeah. And Wisconsin's a huge testament to that one.
No doubt. Coach, it's going to be now a little bit of a lighter week, it looks like to me, as we get going and get into the first of the year. I suppose that football playoff's coming up. I couldn't even name them. I know Notre Dame's in there because my dad told me that. I'm sure Clemson and Alabama is. So we're missing a Big Ten team, right? Ohio State. I just named them all.
Ohio State, Clemson, and Notre Dame versus the Crimson Tide.
Oof, those would be good games now. Those would be fun. Well, Ohio State should be fresh. We all know they only So anyhow, so it should be a lot of fun. And as we get into conference play, obviously that's going to be a lot of fun too. And as we get going forward, I really appreciate Coach Shaka Smart coming on, be part of the greatest podcast in the history of mankind. I mean, certainly the greatest in 2020, and without question, the greatest going forward into 2021, which is when we're going to probably see you next, folks, close to the new year. and we want you to have a great ending of this god awful bullshit 2020 year. Let's get this out of here. Sorry, I'm just going to say it, but we love all our listeners and watchers. And Coach Eaton, really appreciate you coming on and being part of this with us. It's been a lot of fun, and hope you have a great, happy holiday season. And hope Mickey was good to everybody. By the way, did Lily get everything she wanted for Christmas?
She got everything and more.
They always do.
Yes.
I was just thinking about my kids. They got plenty. So we appreciate you. Thanks for being on. And until next week, folks, inside the mind of Miles. Rate, review, subscribe. We need those subscribers. So come on and join us.